Welcome to this special show that we have for you. The Reserve Bank has responded to the lockdown of the country by announcing a moratorium on all loans given by banks, NBFCs, microfinance companies, cooperative banks, regional rural banks. This announcement has, however, led to a spate of doubts and questions. Will everyone who doesn't pay her EMI in April, May and June just have to pay 3 more EMIs at the end of the loan, or will she have to pay a little more money, which is the interest on the 3 extra months, or is there even more than that? Will the interest itself be capitalized? A draft FAQ by the Indian Banks Association has been publicized by the Finance Ministry, but we have the man himself. We have the CEO of the Indian Banks Association, Mr. Sunil Mehta, with us, as also Mr. Mallikarjuna Rao, the Managing Director of Punjab National Bank, to answer a spate of questions. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you very much indeed for joining me. We have some questions coming up from viewers and we will, consolidate them for you. But Mr. Mehta, the first question that comes to the mind is exactly this. Are you just going to pay 3 more EMIs? If my home loan were ending in 2025 April, does it now end in 2025 August? That is, I pay May, June, July as well. Or will it be more because the interest of these 3 months will also be charged?
Good afternoon, Lata. In fact, the question you raised is very well, and people should understand that this particular is a deferment of the installment, and the interest will continue to accrue during the period of deferment. So if the 3 installments which are payable during the month of March, April and May, if they are paid maybe after 5 years as a back end, it will also entail an interest cost for the period of 5 years, because those 3 EMI installments will have an interest accrued on it. That's why it may not be just 3 EMIs at the end. It may be 4 or 5 depending upon the repayment period available with the individual borrower. So those who are in a position to repay, those whose cash flows are not affected, it is advisable for them to continue to repay their installments if they find that they don't have any problems in paying for it. But if the particular segment who think that, yes, I don't have a cash flow, then at least they can defer their installment for 3 months along with the interest, and they can plan it out, its repayment as per their convenience. It can be back-ended up to the end of their repayment period. Okay, well,
I wanted to ask you this, prevail on this a little more, Mr. Mehta. You know, these 3 interest on these 3 months, is it just the interest on 3 months, or is this becoming a part of the principal? That is it getting capitalized? Because I have a working where if you have about 20 years left, that is, you have taken your home loan just like, say, January or last December, so you have 20 years left, then your EMIs actually go up by 15 months. Would that be right? That is because your 3-month interest becomes part of your principal.
You're perfectly right, Lata, because this 3 months amount, which is deferred, and if it is back-ended after 20 years, then this will definitely require service accrual of interest for the 20 years. And that it may, the number of installments, EMIs which may go up, will depend upon the residual period of the term loan available with the individual borrower. So if it is maybe 6 months, then it may not have, it may be just 3 installments, a little more. But if it is 20 years, then it can be more number of installments, because interest accrual is deferred, interest payment is deferred, and as you rightly interpreted, it is a capitalization of the principal as well as the interest for this deferred period.
Let me invite Mr. Mallikarjuna Rao, your successor at PNB, Mr. Mehta. Mr. Rao, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. There are a lot of merger-related questions as well that have come from viewers. But first up, I wanted your advice to those who have EMIs. They may have credit card EMIs, that is, purchases made on credit card turned into EMIs, or people may have car loans, people may have home loans. What is your advice to all those people?
Good afternoon, Lata. My advice will be definitely when the offer is given as on today, if their cash flow because of the current situation is not supporting, let them take advantage of the deferment of 3 installments. And after that, even though these 3 installments as per the RBI requirement will have to be paid at the end by increasing the overall repayment schedule, they can, however, pray prior to that if their cash flow permits in the days to come after this problem is resolved. When they front end making of a payment after the problem is resolved, instead of waiting at the end, the interest burden automatically gets reduced because interest is applied only on the outstanding in the loan account as on any particular day. So my advice would be take the option given at this point of time. Relax yourself because of the pressure what you currently have. But after these problems are resolved, when the cash flow permits, better you make the payment of the installments at the front end rather than waiting until the last so that you can minimize the interest burden overall.
Okay. Point taken. We've got another question. Actually, this is from an Andhra Bank customer. But since Oriental Bank of Commerce is merging with you as of today, Mr. Rao, I think you will be in a position to explain this. What this viewer says is he is an MSME registered as a startup. He works with Andhra Bank and he has an open cash credit account. Now, an emergency line has been announced by Andhra Bank. My sense is that an emergency line will also have been announced by Oriental Bank of Commerce and the deferment of EMIs up to 3 months. Will that be available now with Punjab National Bank if Oriental Bank had granted that to his customer?
Yes, absolutely it will be available. Even though from today, all the 3 banks have become one bank merged into, that is 2 banks, Oriental Bank of Commerce and United Bank are merged into Punjab National Bank. The setup is there. We have permitted the setup to continue until we complete the migration formalities in the technology so that decision making is not impacted and customer will continue to have whatever facilities they've been enjoying with the 3 banks independently, even in the merged entity as well. So in the current question, yes, Oriental Bank of Commerce commitment will be taken care by PNB and they will be extended to the customer. Similarly, I expect Union Bank of India to respect the commitments given by Andhra Bank and extend the facility to them.
Okay, well, let me come to another issue which this startup faced. When he went to the branch and pointed out that Andhra Bank has extended an emergency line of credit, the person at the bank branch said, they say that they have not received any clear instruction from the top officials. Mr. Mehta, this is a repeated point that many both MSMEs and single borrowers point out to us. The branch officials saying that we have not received any clear instruction from top officials. Is that true? I mean, this letter which came to us is dated, I think, day before yesterday. But have all banks reached out to their own branches and clarified the exact modus operandi?
Lata, you will appreciate that these forbearances were announced on 27th of March. All the banks are working together in the best possible way to keep communicating with their customers that all these moratoriums are available to them as has been given by the RBI. Sometimes in 1 or 2 stray cases, there can be some communication gap. And this is one of the reasons, one of the good steps which you are taking, that through mass communication methods like your CNBC TV, we are able to communicate to the masses that these options are available with all the customers. In case they have any issue with a particular branch, they can always approach to the controller of that branch. And meantime, the messages, I thought the communication gap, wherever it exists, will be bridged because of the communications being made by all the top authorities from the various banks.
How many days or hours do you think it will take?
I think it should be over by today because maybe 2-3 days, most of the banks were also busy in their closing activities besides the last moment rush for payment of the taxes. So many of the people might not have been able to go through the complete guidelines, or maybe some communication gaps might have existed. But with the passage of time, maybe within a day or two, all the branches must be fully aware of the dispensations available, and if the customers approach them, they will automatically provide it, because now it is available in the form of FAQs on IBA website also. We are trying our level best to communicate it to the each and every individual through various public communication channels. So let us hope that this information is widespread and all the people are able to take benefit out of it.
Okay. Mr. Rao, a similar question to you. This is again something a viewer wrote to us, saying that when he contacted his branch official, and again I must admit this is not 2 days but I think 3 days old, this message I got, that the principal amount due, which is mentioned below, along on the due dates mentioned below, must please be paid in order to save the account from slipping into SMA. This is the letter he has got after the Reserve Bank announcement, but this is the day after the RBI announcement. So, I mean, it was in your case, in Punjab National Bank's case, would a letter have gone to all MSMEs that you will not slip into SMA?
No. If you kindly understand, the Reserve Bank of India guideline is very clear. The demand for an installment and interest applicable for March, April and May are deferred. That is what is the guideline of RBI. That means the outstanding overdue amount in terms of installment and interest as on 29/2/2020 should have been paid by the borrower. Whereas the demand for March, April and May would not be there for them. So naturally, any account which is an SMA2, that means overdue is anything between 60 days to 90 days, will be becoming NPA by 31st March. Anyway, 31st March is a past date as on today, would have become NPA if nothing has been paid. However, if the same overdue amount without any addition of demand and interest is paid in the next few days or next 1 month, the account will get upgraded. RBI's clarification is very clear that the demand of interest and installment for March, April and May would not be there, and they would be added only at the end of the repayment schedule. As such, even if temporarily an account becomes NPA by 31st March, it can get upgraded without any additional demand for March, April and May.
Okay. Well, before I take my first break, Mr. Rao and Mr. Mehta, I just wanted to ask you this. Right now, the Reserve Bank has put out further relaxations. One of them is the implementation of the countercyclical capital buffer, and they have said that it will not be implemented for a period of 1 year. It is not necessary to activate countercyclical buffer for a period of 1 year or earlier as may be necessary. What relief does that mean to you, Mr. Rao?
Yeah, what I would like to say is countercyclical capital buffer, CCCB, and there is one more thing called capital conservation buffer, CCB. CCB was last installment of 0.625 was to be effective from 1st of April 2020, which was deferred on 27th of March by 6 months. Now it has to be implemented by 30th of September. As far as the counter-cyclical capital buffer is concerned, that is CCCB, which is also envisaged at 2.5 overall, it was extended even prior also. If you look at it, has not been implemented so far for the banks, though it was envisaged in the 2016 as per the Basel recommendations. So it is a matter of further extension by 1 year, since the time probably is not conducive to implement the same from the RBI perspective.
Okay. So actually, I'm getting a lot of questions on my phone. I'll do one thing. I'll take a quick break and I'm back with more questions to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us. We are back in a jiffy.